about him. He's a preaching machine. One of my associates said that he's one of the best preachers in Little Rock, Arkansas, and he can do his thing. He's gonna be with us in our service today. God bless you, Pastor Lee Coleman. God bless you.
God bless you, brother. Thank you for having us.
All right, all right. We thank God for you. We just want to kind of get down to the like the old people say, the nitty gritty. Our objective is to reach the pastors that are striving to be better and to be more successful in the ministry, and we want to kind of be entertaining, but at the same time we want to be informative. So kind of let us know now, who is Pastor Lee Coleman?
Well, man, Lee Coleman is a young man that grew up, I'd say about 20 miles east of here, a little city called Lone Oak, Arkansas.
Okay.
Born and raised there, man. Went to high school there, graduated in 1994. If you often say we are jackrabbits.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Parents, all my family, all relatives live in Lone Oak, Arkansas. Really, then you know how it is when you're born, you move to the country.
Yeah.
You're raised from the little area called Pettis.
Right. I heard of that. Yeah.
So that's just a little history of Lee Coleman.
Okay.
Born and, like I say, raised there, man, and just grew up, man, in a God-fearing family, and from that point on, here I am now.
Oh, that's great. What's in my spirit today, I want to kind of talk about success. Everybody want to be successful. Everybody want a name. They want to be, received by people. And in the ministry, tell us what you think success is in the ministry. What is success to you?
Bishop, from my perspective, success is, number one, when you follow God.
Okay.
If you are being obedient to His will.
Okay.
And you are praying and constantly leaning on His leadership.
Okay.
His guidance. I think any preacher that's in this thing of ministry, that's where the success lies.
Okay.
It's with his devotion to Christ and his following.
So what you're saying is that if because we got a lot of pastors, I have a lot of colleague pastors that I know, and some are doing better than others. Some are doing in terms of the world, they struggling. So you're saying that even the ones that are struggling are successful. Kind of talk about that. Are they, if I got 5 members in a huge building, and I'm struggling to take care of the bare necessities, and I can't meet my budget, I'm just kind of like not paycheck to paycheck, because the church is not a paycheck, but I'm just going from Sunday to Sunday, just trying to keep it going. They still successful. Do you feel?
I think that pastor is successful, and the reason I say that, Bishop, is because I am one that have gleaned from all small ministry. When I started, one of the things that the Lord told me was never go into this for money.
Okay.
And oftentimes we measure success off of, you could say, I've been doing this for 25 years, but then you can see a young person come along, get a church, bam, he blew up.
Right. Now, let's talk about that. And then now we envious.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say we, I'm just saying, other pastors, they envious, and so it's kind of like a little clique in the pastoral, league. So
I think one thing you have to understand, and this is what I had to come to terms with, because what'll happen, you start trying to mimic.
Okay.
And you have to be dangerous and cautious of that spirit. What are they doing that I'm not doing?
Okay.
And one thing the Lord had to show me was, number one, there's no carbon copy
Okay.
of Lee Coleman
Okay.
or Bishop Ivory.
Right.
I've designed Coleman and Ivory for a specific time and place.
That's
This
right.
is what I had to accept.
That's good.
And then once the Lord allowed me to understand that aspect of ministry, and then he had to tell me, I don't need you to be flourishing from the standpoint, I need you to be faithful.
Faithful. That's good.
Be faithful over what I entrust in your care.
Right.
Always remember, I do the exalting.
Yeah.
I understand many people exalt themselves.
Right.
And they make names themselves. So I kind of just stay humble, man. I've never had a ministry where, and I can share this, and I'm not ashamed, that where I pastored a church where I made a lot of money. I've given
Right.
into the church more than I walked away with.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You got a witness.
Yeah. So that's been my ministry. I've never been one of the ones that God has flourished. And he says, and one thing you got to understand, and I tell any young preacher, especially if they're starting in ministry, understand that all of us are not going to pastor major churches, mega churches.
Right.
All of us are not going to pastor mega churches. But what the Lord does is if you got 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people
Yeah.
in your care,
Right.
that's enough for you to give an account for.
That's right.
So that 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 that show up on Sunday morning, you may not have a mega church, but you got a major church.
Right. And that's a good point, you know, Pastor, because it kind of mess with your mental a little bit. You know, you got to stay focused, you know. But one thing I want to say, you know, you pastor in Rocky Mountain. You've been pastoring there for 8 years. And then you also been preaching 25, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've been preaching 25, you know, over 20 years also. So, but what would not saying you're old, but what would you now tell a younger Coleman?
What I tell a younger Coleman now is, looking back hindsight over his ministry, is to be authentic.
Okay.
Be yourself.
Okay.
Don't worry about the applauses of people.
Yeah.
I would tell him, don't look for pats on the back. Don't.
Yeah.
Because what happened in my early ministry, I measured my success the young Lee.
Yeah.
Starting out preaching, whether after the response of the crowd.
Right.
And that was a dangerous, and I felt like I didn't do anything or say anything if the people just sat there like a knot on the law.
Right.
And I walked away discouraged. Many times I wanted to just quit preaching.
Right.
Because
Let's be honest today.
Yeah. Because I never got the response.
Right.
That I thought
that you felt like you should have gotten.
But it wasn't until as I grown, the Lord began to show me. And when you get a phone call, maybe a day later, or you bump into somebody, and they say,
"Hey, Lord, the message that you got something from it.
Thank you for what you told me."
Yeah.
I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And that's the Lord reassuring you.
Right,
Bishop,
right.
That as long as you just say what I tell you to say.
Yeah.
My word will not return unto me void.
That's good. So I want to ask you too. You know, one key thing about ministry and pastoring, you know, a lot of times pastors get up, ministers get up, and they don't, I'm not going to say they don't have anything to say, but they haven't spent the proper time, you know, developing their message, their thought. They just think when they get up, you know, there's something going to come out their mouth. But you got to spend time, you got to study. Absolutely. So what's your process and what's your take on preparation, you know, for ministry?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that, because I was kind of hoping you veered that way some. Sermon preparation begins, number one, and I had to learn this early on because I would look for something to preach. Right. And as I've grown now, preaching 25, pastoring 23.
Okay.
I've learned to understand that now my messages are built out of my devotion time with God.
Okay, good.
So my devotion time is not just waking up, or I know, oh Lord, it's Saturday, I got to have something to say.
Yeah.
That's the early young preacher leak.
Right.
But now, as through my devotion, I would tell anybody, your sermon prep ought to begin and be birthed out of your devotion with God.
Okay.
Out of your devotional time. And it's that during those times that, especially when you're pastoring,
Yeah.
you got a sense of understanding of what your congregation needs are.
Right.
And so that message and God begins to build around that aspect.
That's good.
And that's what God, that's the way he does me.
Right.
And so my sermon preparation begins out of my devotional time.
Some people say that it's 20 hours, 30 hours. What how would you gauge, just not
Yeah.
something absolute, but just a thought.
I would gauge, Bishop, say today's Sunday, and I've come to discover that series preaching is better for me.
Okay.
I'm bivocational.
Right.
I gotta go work.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta go work.
That's all right.
I ain't at the church.
Yeah.
like
That's all right. Yeah, that's all right.
So I'm bivocational. So
Yeah.
I'm going to spend out of that devotional time. I know if I'm in the book of, say, Joshua, I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Come.
What if God tell you something else and then you in Joshua? You gonna wait to tell it?
I have had him to shift me
Okay.
on Sunday
So
morning.
nothing is absolute.
Nothing is absolute.
Good.
I have had him to shift me, and that's key.
Yeah.
Because see, when you know where you're going, but you also got to be led by the Spirit.
The Spirit, that's the key thing.
Because he may, even though, yes, I got you studying and prepping here, but I need to say something today
Right.
here.
That's good.
That's birth.
Right.
And I've gotten sensitive to that.
Yeah.
And more obedient when that happens.
In your mature
In maturity
ministry.
because of that devotion time.
That's good.
That
That's
goes
good.
back to that devotional time with God.
That's good.
Outside of that, you can't. And so I've seen it where, and there was time where, oh no, man, I didn't study for this. I didn't put this word in all week long. I'm preaching this.
And
today.
then you know what happened when you do that?
You fall flat on your face.
It don't work out, dog. It don't.
It don't work out
for me
Bishop.
anyway.
You gonna fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
As the old preacher say, you died. You gonna die that day.
Yeah, you gonna die. You gonna down.
You die. Yeah.
But we done had an awesome time with you, Pastor, and we're just excited to hear what you got to say. One last thing as we close, a lot of people, think that it's more intellectual rather than the spirit.
Absolutely.
And then you have some that's more spirit, get up and they ain't got nothing intellectual.
Right.
So I feel like it's a balance. Sometimes you're more intellectual, and then sometimes you're more spirit, but you got to have that balance. So that comes out, like you said, your devotional time. But we had an awesome time. God bless you.
Thank you, Bishop. Man, yes,
Pastor,
sir. Anytime. I love this.
And we thank God for you being with us with
sir.
a talk with the bishop.
Amen.
This is Bishop WJ with Pastor Coleman, an awesome preacher. We thank God for him. Tune in with us on the Preachers Network Media.com. Thank you. This is Bishop WJ with a talk with the bishop. God bless. See you next time.